Ulonka tabati yada to ye ko madaifa. Inu to ye ko je love bipa. Oba tala, oba takutakun. Zongo Eshu, Ogun Oya Oshun. Kini ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o. Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha, and today we are with the iconic, legendary Oloye Baba Ifa Karade. What's going on, Baba? How you doing?
Baba Orisha Bemi, Agboato, Shelafiani to all of our listeners and all of those who are striving to better understand self with Ifan, with Orisha. It's been an honor, and we're going to keep this going. There is no last day.
I say facts.
There is no last day.
I know that's right.
All right. So
that's what's up.
What do we have in store? What's going on?
Well, you the one, you the store. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a little cart, man. I'm gonna get me a little a virtual cart, start pushing through the aisles and see what you got going on. See what you got on the shelves today, man. What's on the shelves today? What we got going on up in this thing, man?
Right, well, we kind of got two for the price of one happening today.
Hey, I'll take it. I'm a bargain shopper. I'm a bargain studier. I'm a bargain reader, so I'm gonna take it. I'm ready to get it.
Right. And then for all our listeners out there, okay, this is it, And as you see, I kind of got my mud cloth thing happening today, so I'm stepping very lightly yet heavily upon the earth. And what resonates, what reverberates, are two words that come out of the tradition of our people, okay, as Yoruba, okay, as Fan, as Edo, as all of us, have a way of planting our feet on the ground and being of the growth of ourselves as individuals and as community, right? And those two words are the Allah Ashe, okay, which is a way of moving self to greater heights, greater awareness of being. And following that, I'll discuss Ashiwada, which is a term that encompasses how we move as a community, right? And I'm going to reference two books. The handbook, okay, and writings by okay, Myth, Literature, and the African World. Okay. Now, the Allah Ashe comes through via Ancestral Reverence. And again, I need to forewarn all of you that my interpretation of embracing our way of life, okay, may be a little different than what you've experienced, may be a little different than what you've been taught. But I need for you to know that that's okay. All right. There's more than one string on the guitar. There's more than one note to be played. The objective is to find harmony and not discord, okay, and camaraderie and not chaos, in competition. I'm not in any competition with anybody. I'm at peace with myself. I've won the war.
Sure.
I don't need to compete. So from Ancestral Reverence, as noted in the Handbook of Yoruba Religious Concepts, authored by yours truly, okay,
Certified, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, the side over there.
Yes, sir.
It's the ancestors who have interpreted and revealed the words of the universal construct clearly. You know, our ancestors put all this together. Nothing just dropped out of the sky.
Facts.
They have actualized the Ashe in regard to psychological and cultural expression. Who we are, how we move, how we built our civilization. Okay. They have uncovered the inherent divinity and spirituality of human existence. The ancestors provide the ethics and worldviews of the tradition. Adherents to the tradition abide by the ancestral wisdom in order to develop themselves and the culture. Ways of behavior to ensure a good life are primarily ancestral statements. It's a good life that leads to a good death, a death that leads beyond the gate that is everlasting. The Allah Ashe provide examples of right living as handed down by Yoruba ancestors. Okay. Now, just taking that opening statement, thesis statement, if you will. Okay. We have a way of leaning towards my ancestors, what my ancestors did, what my ancestors' shrine should be composed of. We give reverence to our ancestors. We make sure to separate worship from reverence. You know, we call on our ancestors. Egun mojubayi bae. Egun bokbo mojubayi bae. You know, we call upon our ancestors. But what I found missing in the process is the thought process. Okay, we will continue to make offerings, and we'll continue to call the names, and we'll get readings, or what we who are in the Isese and Ifa would call divinations, and something will come up about the ancestors, and how we need to work with the ancestors. Okay. Now, if we had those divinations at a time when the Alashe was strong in our ancestral framework, it wouldn't be a question of how to lead a good life. What are the pillars of a good life? What are the rewards? And what is the punishment? Okay. That has all been usurped by the enslavement process. I mean, basically, when the good life and the right way of living are Eurocentric, Christian, Islamic. Okay, we have our commandments. Okay, we have this is what the culture, the society deems the right way. And of course, if you do right, heavenly gates open for you, and if you do wrong, you're going to hell. People let you know straight up, you're going to hell. Okay, so we are sort of brain twisted into weighing our behaviors more so from a Eurocentric Christian / Judeo-Christian Islamic, the Abrahamics, and okay, half a loaf is better than none. All right, depending on what's on the one that you have, because it could be mold infested, it could be poisonous, it could be reeking of mold and insects. So it might be best to have none. Right? Then you turn around and say, well, if I don't have any, I need to get something because I need to be nourished. We need guidelines. And our ancestral reverence you know, as we involve ourselves in Ilays and in Isese and in Ifa, doesn't seem to be an area that is discussed hardly ever, if at all. My research, my travels have revealed, okay, that there are 7 major pillars that uphold Allah Ashe. Okay. 1, Ifarabale, maintaining a sense of composure. Okay. Now, when we start giving our classes under the African Spirituality Experience, okay, then we'll kind of subdivide, break down each category that I'm speaking of. But we're going to start with composure.
Gotcha.
How is it and why is it that composure is the first, okay, pillar? Being composed. If you're composed, you have clarity. If you're beset by emotion and mental traumas and upheavals, then odds are you're not going to make the best of decisions and you're not going to behave in the best of ways. So it might be good sometimes to just take a breath, a deep one, let the air pass through that throat chakra that we discussed in regards to Obatala, and then weigh the situation and weigh our behavior. The second one. Oh,
sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was thinking like clarity, like how important clarity is, not just with Isese, Ifa, or Orisha, but just in life in general. What are some tips or tools that you could offer real quick on some ways for us to kind of develop or enhance our clarity? Because that's something that I see a lot of people struggle with, including myself at times. Certain things that I have to really dial it in and like focus, meditate. It's different things that I use personally to try to help me to strengthen my clarity. But I know a lot of people now, especially in this day and time, are struggling with clarity. Is there anything that you can kind of recommend for the listeners, like that we can do as far as an exercise or some sort of practice that can kind of enhance or cultivate or, just strengthen our clarity so we can really dial it in, with that focus?
Okay, well, as I stated, we'll delve deeply into this with the classes, but sprinkle a little gooba dust on it. Okay, all right. Breathing, we take it for granted. Okay, but to focus on your breathing is at the core of Isese and Ifa. We again are set to look away from our development as a cultural epitome amongst humanity. Okay, so when we start to now get a glimpse of not just our ancestors were worshiping the Orisha and our ancestors were drumming and singing 99% of the time, it's like, come on, people, no. Okay, right? There were sages. There were people who were deeply developed. There were people who went to the hills and to the mountains and lived on the fringes of the civilization of the society and developed their arts and skills, just like when we think of the Asian studies, Eastern studies, the Shaolin monks and the yogis and people like that. We had those type of individuals as well, and that's fact. So when the whole concept of breathing and breath came in, it was Obatala. I'm just talking in these Isese terms now because that's why we're here. Okay, brought forth the being and the form, and all of the other Orisha kind of put their little hand in it, in terms of Ogun and the bone structure and all of that. But it was all under the auspices of Olodumare. And after the life shell was formed, the essence of life had to be breathed in. And that's when we come up with the daughter of Olodumare, okay, which we could say the feminine essence, or that other side of the struggles of creation, okay, breathed me, life into being. And then we were then brought into being, like the baby from the womb coming in has to have that air. If there's no air, that physical form will not survive. Will not survive. And you have stillbirth and, you know, all of the other tragedies that a mother and a family might feel.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to start focusing on breathing exercises and taking deep breaths, not just when we're upset, but exercise it. So when we do become upset, we can click in on it. So that would be top. Focus on the breathing. Okay. The second would be, and I'm only going to do 2 or 3, because again, I don't want to give the class and take up all the time, because it's serious. It's deep.
Right.
The second would be diet.
Wow.
Diet. Okay. Now, coming from the Upanishads, developed by the Dravidians of India, who are related to the whole Western African cosmology because of migrations of people. But, you know, we were the first people of India. They look just like you and me sitting right here, right now.
Yeah, they still do. Just minus the difference in the hair. I mean, some of them darker than both of us.
Oh, well, you know,
hair.
but they've been pushed to the bottom, you know, by the Aryans who came in and, you know, through battle just kept pushing people south. But the further south they were pushing, the civilizations, there were boats where people were getting out of India and going as far as South America. Okay. And this is why we see so many connections, archaeologically speaking. But I'm dealing with, you know, also, you know, the practices of enhancing the human being. Okay. So we have the Upanishads, and they talk about 3 types of foods. Rajasic, which is those hot foods that are, you know, that get you going. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tamasic, which is the opposite. You know, the heavy meats, for example, the foods that weigh you down.
Right.
After you eat, you just want to go to sleep. You know what I mean?
They call it the itis. That's right. Catch that itis.
Yeah, you know. And then at the top of this food chain conceptually is the sattvic. And those are your fresh fruits, your vegetables, okay? And foods that have that calming, okay, but yet nourishing, okay? Nuts and coconut water and, you know, things like that nourish the body without weighing the body down or overexciting the body. So what we generally see, and of course there are thousands of exceptions, so, you know, that people who are more of the Rajasic diets have a tendency to respond to the world in a very heated and impassioned kind of way. You see? Of course, and I reiterate, it can be broken down to even finer detail, and there are exceptions to the rule. But this is how our ancestors were seeing this. People who ate heavy meats and, you know, very, you know, like thick starches kind of food, very tamasic, okay, they will have a tendency to, you know, kind of just let things go. You know, they people could take advantage of them. You know, the behavioral thing. They weren't really like quick-witted.
Mm-hmm.
When challenged. Okay.
Docile.
Hmm.
I said it. Pretty much have like docile traits or characteristics.
Yeah. And that could lead to very, traumatic, situations,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not fighting back. We are undercomposed, you know.
Mm.
You know? And then of course the Sophic is the highest order. So I would encourage, and even when you do eat and you try to breathe, and like they say, don't go swimming for a couple of hours after you eat, that kind of thing, because it affects your breathing. It weighs you down.
Cramp up.
If you're into any sports, you don't eat a heavy meal before you get into the ring.
Mm-hmm.
It affects your breathing. Um, I ran track, and it was my grandmother who shared with me. She said, sugar take away your breath,
Mm.
you know. And of course, the wisdom, and I was like, okay, so let me stop with a lot of foods that have sugar and the sodas and all that kind of stuff, and let me experience it, because I know she wouldn't have said it if she wasn't right. Okay.
Facts.
you know So, and then I found out. And then when we start looking at the other side effects of heavy sugars in people's lives, then it's like, why are we eating this? You know what I mean? It takes our breath away. Now we got diabetes. When they do studies with kids in school, they all hyped up. They're not composed.
Mm-hmm.
And so you feed them foods that do not assist in the composure, and then punish them when they get out of control. It's a setup.
Wow.
It's a setup. And I'm like, okay, you want to change the exterior by chaining people and throwing them into prisons and shooting them, but you don't want them to change their diet because it's legalized drugs, it's legalized narcotics. Okay. And people who partake are more set to not be composed, easily triggered, and therefore in the greatest need of being controlled.
Mm.
Breathing, diet, and then relatedly, forms of exercise. Okay. Tai Chi, yoga, reggae, calisthenics, whatever that gets you breathing. Respiration. The word spirit is respiration. It's there.
Mm.
Okay. So the more you can work with your breathing, our ancestral logic is the more apt you are going to find a deeper spirit within yourself. And then you become more spiritual as a result.
Mm.
You don't become more spiritual just by making offerings and going to your shrines. You become more spiritual when you start taking that in and internalizing it. And how do you do that? Breathing, diet, and exercising.
I like that, Baba. And one thing too, as you're saying that, one of the thoughts that was running through my mind is, so is there any way where that breaks down into the correlation of how cigar plays a role into, our relationship with spirit, especially like if we're talking about maybe with the Egungun, or if we're talking about, some of the offerings or rituals that we give to Orisha, involve cigars, it involves, the blowing of the smoke from the cigar. Does that tie into what you're explaining to us in terms of breath work in any kind of way? Or is that like how does that, how does that relate to what we do in terms of some of the practices and rituals that involve cigars?
Well, I put it to you like this. All right. People been smoking tobacco, people been smoking marijuana since the beginning of time almost. You know what I mean? And it ties in in respect and in regards to, okay, a relaxation, okay, a mind altering, which doesn't have to be hallucinogenic, but it does clean. Now remember that the smoking before the industry was created didn't contain all of the toxins. Okay. So, and even with the marijuana, and especially the marijuana of today, unlike the marijuana of my day, okay. Not that I would know anything about that.
Yeah, listen.
But what's being done to the products, like what's being done to the foods.
There you go. Same thing. Yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't be legal if it was coming from the same elements of nature the way it used to.
And that's why, exactly. That's why they made it illegal.
Oh yeah.
Because they weren't capitalizing off of it, and the
pros of it.
Yeah, folks coming up from Mexico and all was making too much money up here in the States. So again, but that's a whole nother socioeconomic, political trickery, that thrown on us. But based on the whole, cigar thing and even the marijuana thing, if it relates and is a part of the composing of the individual, then who could argue it? As far as blowing out the cigar smoke, or I've seen people do it with marijuana, with water or with gin, that whole thing has a lot to do with the breath of the priestly, and even the water, the molecules, okay, and all that is said to be a blessing. And there are some instances where I've heard and even seen where the priestly didn't use any of that. It's just my breathing, okay, like okay, on an object or on a person that would be from that individual a working process. Another individual might say, well, I use smoke from tobacco or marijuana. Another individual might say, I use water or gin. Another individual might say, I use whatever I can get my hands on. You know what I mean?
Because energy is a real thing, positive energy and negative energy. So I feel like everything you're saying is truly relevant as to that, how some things can work for some people and some might not work for others. You know what I mean? Because everybody's ashe is different, everybody's intention is different, everybody's frequency is different. So it's like you can't it's almost like comparing a lion to a regular house cat. You know what I mean? Same breed. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same breed. Technically, they're in the same animal when you break them down scientifically, but one of them is 30, 40, 50 times more ferocious and powerful than the other. Both felines. So I feel you what you're saying with that, because I think all those elements definitely play a role into, I feel like, what the effects of how a person's ashe would have a significant, profound effect on someone that they're working with versus someone else who might not have really any effect or some sort of I would say impact on a person. So I definitely see where you're going with that for sure, and I agree with it.
Yeah, and like I said, open up. There's more than one string on a guitar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and on a kora, if we want to go there. So, but played in harmony, the music is fine. They're not competing with each other. They're not trying to dominate. And even in light of that, when we look at what happens between the priestly and the initiate or the seeker, a lot has to do with the seeker as well.
Oh yeah,
because if the seeker doesn't really want to be blessed, You can blow smoke on them all you want. They're gonna walk away like I don't feel nothing, because that trust, that bond, that bridge hasn't been built. Okay. And there's been many cases. I mean, even in the Odu, a Warren Meiji, to be exact, Arumala talks about Babalaos who turn on other Babalaos, who set traps for other Babalaos. So, a lot has to do with the dynamics of the society, the community, and of the individuals who are involved. My impact on the people of my Ile is going to be stronger because of their connection with me. If I go somewhere else, people might say, you don't have, your Ashe is not strong enough. The Baba we had before you came was hitting. You can take that even in respect to a church. You got one preacher who throws down and the people are all with it. You bring in another preacher after that, the elder passes on or whatever, and he could be reading the same passage, and people like, you ain't got enough fire behind. You know what I mean? We're not feeling it.
Oh yeah, and that goes in so many different levels, Baba. From any position that's a position of leaders of men and women. Like, for example, so you said pastor, you said priest, but we can take it into sports. When you talk about coaches, we can take it into class. When you talk about teachers, you know what I mean? So it's like parenting. When you talk about parents, so it's like, it's just it's the ashe, it's the intention, it's the energy, it's the frequency. All those things play a major role in how the seekers or how the followers or how the players or the students, etc., respond to that energy.
Yes. And as the priestly, these are discussions that I personally feel, and clearly you resonate with.
Oh yeah.
This is what people need to hear us talking about. That they need to hear us talking about this, and then when and where they can, they lend their response to it, because we're all a part of this.
That's facts.
We're all a part of this, and we can move Isese and Ifa to heights unfathomed. We can go deeper than we ever dreamed, but we have to step beyond what has been put in a little pet plate for us to feed off of. We have to step beyond it. Okay. I'm stepping beyond it, but I'm nowhere near where I even see, much less where I know I don't see. So when I come up with the Allah Ashe, I didn't invent it. I researched it and I traveled and I weighed it to the point where I can boil it down to, first of all, where I can understand it and attempt to live up to it. And then on the flip side of the coin, so that others may have the opportunity to see that Isese and Ifa goes far beyond what we've been conditioned to accept. Okay. And as a note, I mentioned in this section about a surgeon who state, that it's stated by Oba Osejiman Adifumi I, and this is in the handbook, that Egun / ancestors, and I put it in quotes because he said this to me directly.
Ashe.
That ancestors, Egun / ancestors, are the determiners of what is moral and truthful in respect to life. He continues, the Orisha do not dictate morality, the ancestors do. The good life, okay, and this is me, I continue, is established by being respectful to the elders / ancestors. Their wisdom and life directive need to be studied and adhered to. By following proverbial wisdom and insight and listening to ancestral voices, Yoruba devotees are led to inner strengths and worldly balance. It mustn't be forgotten that the tenets of Ifa itself are ancestral understandings and interpretations. The very culture is built upon this. Okay. And then I have other quotes, from other noted Babas and Ears in the tradition who echo that statement. I put in the Karaday Nation on the Facebook a clip of a documentary with the Oba's son, the king who passed, and he was echoing his father's epiphanies. Okay, and your sound.
Was that the Return to Africa documentary, or was it a different one?
It was a different one. Okay. If you go there right now, I noticed you hadn't checked it, so I don't think you got to it. But
I was I was out of the house the majority of the day today. It was a lot going.
No, I posted this like last week.
Oh, okay.
From Karaday Nation. But at any rate, he's sitting there and he's embracing his father and embracing, how he has evolved as king. But one of the statements he made regarding his father's, again, epiphany on this, he said a lot of people didn't agree with my father when my father said being involved in the quote unquote religion was secondary.
I saw that though. I did see that.
Okay.
I think quite a few people were sharing it. Go ahead, Baba. I don't want to interrupt, but yeah, that was a powerful statement, though. Very powerful.
Yes. And I said, well, okay, now see, this is where, okay, the finger gets placed on the pulse, right? Because we who have been in this for a minute, okay, as eternal as that minute is, have come to see that we have become imitators of religion. Okay, this is how you worship. This is how you conceptually embrace religion. Okay, and we're saying, yeah, the Orisha are worthy of worship. Okay, and even I will use religion as a term, but I know deep inside that my connotation of religion is different. And people say, well, we'll use spirituality. Yeah, but even when we call ourselves spiritual, we are still not connecting ancestrally, not because we don't want to, but because we just don't know. And we've been socialized into even what consists of, being spiritual. Okay. We don't know of the Allah Ashe. We don't know of the Ashwada. We are all into, what Orisha want. And then we give homage to our ancestors, but we don't know any ancestral codes because A, nobody's teaching us, because A, nobody is studying it, and because A, we're not making this a part of the core of our involvement. Okay. So now we look at the Allah Ashe and we take into account what the Oba is saying based on his growth and travels and awareness, okay, that people are all up in the shrines, but they're not all into the essence of this Isese, of this Ifa. And when we look at Ogun Meji, since we're going to start dealing out Odu, because since it's just, well, what's my Odu in Odu? Well, Ogun Meji is like Orunmila brought all of the Orisha together to include Ori. And Orunmila asked a very, very profound question. Orunmila said, which one of you would stop being the essence of the Ashe of your devotees? Okay, because Orunmila can't stop. Okay, all of the Orisha, and then okay, we got to listen to Orunmila. So Orunmila said, everybody, hold on. Which one of you would cease being a part? Now, again, when we think about Orisha, it's like, oh, but that Orisha essence can leave you. Okay. That Orisha essence can leave you. I remember watching Quilombo, okay, talking about Palmares in Brazil. And the king, who, you know, was doing strong, freeing the people, but he got involved with some foolishness, and Shango left him. The essence of Shango just, I'm done with you. Okay? Tried to tell you. The elders tried to tell you, but you got all caught up in the you. Okay? And then you know, forgot about not just me, but all that I symbolize. So Shango left. Okay? And even if we do a comparison with Odysseus of Greek mythology, you know, thought he was stronger than better than the gods, and they were like, okay, we'll just cut your behind off and deal with it on your own. Done.
It made me think about the series BML. They say cut your water off.
You know what I'm saying? Done. Okay.
Cut your water off on you, bro. Golly. Cut his water off, man. Dang.
This one caught me too, and I usually in one of my novels I got to go back to home and say, but I had one individual who thought that you know, he got all big headed and everything, and thought that he was greater than the Orisha. Okay, and he thought that, you know, he could climb up a rope and get to Orisha. So Eshu was like, okay, here's the rope. So man started climbing. Thought he had it like that. He thought he was better than everybody else, and he thought he was going to rule the Orisha. Eshu waited till he got halfway between wherever, and he cut the rope at the bottom, and he cut the rope at the top.
Oh man.
And the foolish one just perished there in the middle of everywhere and nowhere. You see? So all of these lessons are expounded upon. But who expounded upon them? Our ancestors. You understand? We're not, you know, we're doing all of the revering, but we're not giving them credit for being intelligent, for being deeply insightful, and providing ways for us to live, not just to worship, you know, the Orisha. Okay? Because, okay, back to my story. I took the old man road. But
no, I'm here for it, man. I'm telling you, every time, look, I'm here for it.
So all of the Orisha said, well, at a certain point, if my devotee is cutting up, then I got to bounce. I'm going. They're gonna have to deal with it or get it right and come back to me, but I'm out. Okay.
That's powerful. I've seen it. I've seen it.
But okay, not finished the story yet. But there was one Orisha who said, I will never desert my devotee, no matter what. And you know what Orisha that was? Ori.
Yes, sir.
Ori is like, I will never desert my devotee. All the other Orisha, they have finite points. You can worship them all you want, but if you're not carrying yourself in accordance to, then as you stated, the water get cut off. Okay.
Water off, man. You don't want to get your water cut. You definitely don't want to get your water cut off by the Orishas, boy. That is no. Wow.
But you know, but it happens. Things happen. You know what I mean? And people they go and try to get water from someplace else. People have dropped Orisha and become Christians. You know, because they were kind of always Christians before they got into Orisha anyway. So whatever it is they were looking for, whatever, you know, Puff the Magic Dragon fantasy world they thought was going to happen didn't happen. Then they go back to Christianity because that's where their initial beliefs were founded, and crystallized more than perhaps they thought.
But what I gather too, though, Baba, and I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. But I one thing though, I'm really firm with is like accountability and just being real. So I feel like people who are both of those, accountable and real or authentic, transparent, whatever you want to call it, I feel like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what system, what religion, what God, what faith you have. You are a strong will, determined person who is 10 toes down and you solid no matter what your faith is. I feel like you still should be somebody who can be able to invoke some serious power or I say as long as you're doing the right things with the right intention. You know what I mean? Because I know people from all walks that I'm cool with, but I feel like the reason I'm cool with them the way I am is because they're solid people. No matter what, So we're all, I feel like we move on a similar accord or frequency that it doesn't matter that I'm in Ifa and Isese and Orisha or they're in Christianity or they're in Islam, whatever the case may be. I don't care if they're Buddhist. If your energy is right, you a solid or female, whoever the person, like I rock. You know what I mean? So because we're gonna be real, there's people in our faith that ain't solid, and they, they ain't so
ain't there.
So I just want to say that only to like I'm not letting somebody slide because they got different faith. Like I feel like as a person, just like the Ori doesn't leave us as an individual. If we are solid individuals, I do wholeheartedly feel like whoever your creator or your days and all that will back you because you are solid. So it still starts with the you. You know what I mean? Like I think that's where some people get it misconstrued. Even if the Christians or whoever they trying to claim Jesus for everything, but okay, but what are you doing? Jesus ain't gonna help you. He ain't helping you. I mean, that's just what it is. What it is to me.
Right. So full circle. Back to what the Oba was saying. Back to what some of the quote unquote enlightened folks were saying that the quote unquote religious part, the ritual part and all of that's secondary. And even the Rumula states as a tenet, your involvement in the Isese and in the Ifa is not about, 100% worshiping the Orisha. The ultimate purpose that you're in it is to become an Iniyangiti, an authentic human being, a part of the nature of essence. And you can't do that if you don't have a way of behavior that brings in a moral construct, not only to you, because your children are watching, and there are due at stake those who plant the seeds of wickedness do so upon the heads of their children.
Yes, I've heard that.
So then what happens is it's not just the children now who go out with the wickedness, the whole society. And this is what Willis Yinka is talking about in this book. Okay, Myth, Literature in the African World. He's stating now, as I kind of tiptoe into Ashiwada, that our moral construct and our understanding of our ancestral way of living, not just worshiping, again, back into that, this is how we're religious and this is how we're spiritual. I was in Kenya in 1977. Okay. I was in Kenya for 4 months. Right. I wasn't in the city, down in the bush. Working with groups, building schools, and we set with the Fundishi, a little hospital kind of thing happening for the people out in the bush. So I was living out there. Long story long. Okay. And I'm all studious, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get some firsthand knowledge up in here, and I'll talk to the man and his wives, and they're all in there. And the translator said, well, tell me something about how you practice your religion. What's your God concept? La da 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 da. And they all looked at me and smiled and said, we say good morning to each other. And I'm like, what? What I mean? I've got my pen and paper out. I'm ready to, I'm writing my freaking imaginary dissertation or whatever. And it's like, we say good morning. I'm like, all right, come on. And it took me a minute, that eternal minute of watching them say good morning. And even the co-wives. I was there for 4 months. Never a harsh word. They doing each other's hair. They looking out for each other's kids. Composure to the max. The compound, the men weren't fighting and getting drunk and carrying on. They were helping each other. The composure. And then it dawned on me as a question. When you were growing up, how many times did somebody say good morning to you? When you were a young man in your relationships and in the world, how many times did you really look at that person and say good morning? You understand? And I know a lot of people got this whole thing with the good morning thing. Well, we shouldn't be saying good morning. Ain't nothing morning about it. Like, come on, we ain't in the playground. Okay.
Right. You get it. You get what the message is. Yeah.
It's like, come on. We should be saying grand rising. Okay. But pretty soon somebody's going to find something wrong with that. Trust me.
Right.
So, but the point is, the whole thing was, how do you address another human being? Now, once I started learning about yoga and all that kind of thing and the whole namaste thing, I recognize the spirit within you, which is why I'm treating you decently and with respect, which should be reciprocated, one would hope. Okay. Then it's like, all right, so now it's starting to become, there's something more to being quote unquote religiously involved. It's how we conduct ourselves. And now when I get into Isese, it's like, okay, so what did our ancestors more specifically in this faith factor have? Obatala wants you to do this, and Shango wants you to go here and do that, and Ogun wants you to do, that. Yeah, okay, so that's a fraction of it. Orumila wants us to adhere as much as we can to the Odu, okay, proverbial, scriptural, if you will. But what is it that our ancestors want us to do? Why is that left out? Okay. Why? Okay. Because we're not taught to see our African ancestors as viable means of knowledge, philosophy, and even spirituality.
I see.
Okay. So I'm trying to turn that around because we have to.
Yeah.
Not a leisurely pursuit up in here. This is a necessity. Oh, yeah. So we move to number 3, Su'uru, which is patience. Eso, which is caution. Imo, as in Imoye, which is knowledge. Ogbon, which is wisdom. And Oye, Imoye, knowledge. Moye is wisdom. And when we start subdividing that in terms of how do we attain this, Orisha are there to assist in the process. But as Oba Surgiman is saying, okay, they don't dictate that. They assist in the process. As Arumila is saying, they don't dictate that. Okay, they assist in the process. As your Re is saying, okay, I am the portal by which you can commune with your ancestors. I'm your consciousness.
That's powerful. I mean, it's powerful because even like, for those who have traveled the path, into the room, you don't get entrance in the green light into the room unless you have been stamped with the approval of the ancestors. It's just that simple. Like, so, we don't do anything without, pretty much consulting with, or at least appeasing or getting the co-signing of the ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Like straight up, look, your credit ain't strong enough to get into Orisha by yourself.
No,
this is not. You have to have the co-signing of your ancestors, because if they ain't co-signing for you, you're not going to that level to deal with Orisha anyways.
Yeah, but I gotta say, man, you know, that I agree 100%, but it's not what I've seen or nor experienced out there in the Orisha world, you know, and you know, at the speed of which some people are pushed into priesthood. Yeah, there is an ancestral calling, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I wouldn't even be here if something inside of me wasn't kind of, you know, moving me in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not a, well, some people have done it just for pure academic, you know, experience. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm a journalist, so I want to, you know, I might not agree with war, but I'm going to go to the battlefield because I'm going to, you know, journalize it, you know. But when it comes down to, okay, now the ancestors may have given you a jife, you know, when the obi is thrown. So you go into the room, you come out. But then if you're not embracing the ancestors, then they too could turn off the water. You know, because the same way you can be blessed, it's the same way you can be cursed. You know, so it's like, you know, it gets very intricate. But you know, all I'm saying is that more emphasis on the Allah Ashe, and that emphasis being a part of what we're taught as being involved in Isese, as being involved in Ifa. Now, when it comes down to Ashiwada, Ashiwada basically means community.
Hmm.
Okay. I even came up with something, Ashiwada. You know, so how are we moving like links in a chain? Okay. How are we moving to uplift our community together as individuals? And I know there's people who say more of the we than the I. Okay. As a part of what our Bantu ancestors might say, Ubuntu. You know what I mean? We're moving together. This is Ashiwada. Right? But there's only the exceptions that kind of demonstrate that. You understand? Just like in the sports field, you know, you have a whole lot of athletes making a whole lot of money, but only a few come to mind who are actually giving back. What's his name? Jalen Brown.
Jalen Brown, yeah, I love that one, that young brother too.
A lot of respect for him, man.
Young brother.
Yeah.
5-10 years longer than him, ain't even close to doing what he's doing. So I definitely I see what he's doing. I love it. I salute it. I support it, because I mean he doing it. I like that.
Yeah. So LeBron, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Simone Biles, before COVID hit, building a gymnastics gymnasium, tried to get it down in Texas. I don't know if she's going to return to it or not, but they kind of got the rug pulled out from under them because COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she was taking her monies and giving back to the community.
Doing it the right way.
Listen to a thing with even Snoop Dogg, you know, and he brought out he got a power position in Def Jam.
Death Row, yeah, that's the label he used to be on. So he ended up buying it. Like he worked out a deal. Matter of fact, I caught an interview. I want to say I seen it was on Drink Champs. I didn't get to check out.
Yeah, that's where I saw it.
A clip of it. He was talking about that. Like he had been trying to get it, but they was pretty much trying to gatekeep him. They wouldn't let him get it. But I didn't get to catch the whole thing and see like how he eventually was able to get in there and work it to get it. But that's dope though, for him to be able to, you know, get that label after all they've been through over there at Death Row.
And just as importantly, you know, in conjunction with how he got it, is what he intends to do with it. And his whole thing is all those people who were getting kind of shafted and not getting paid, the artists, he said he's going to turn that around, because he's about the community of the artists, not just about himself. And he wanted to get their own streaming thing like Netflix and Hulu. They're going to have their channel where people can go, and then residuals will be
given to the artist.
To the artist.
That's dope. I like that.
Now that's Ashiwada. Okay, in real time.
I like that.
Real time. Okay. Now, for us to be in Isese and Ifa, how many examples do we have? Okay. You understand what I'm saying? You know, I mean, there are people in other faiths who are buying up city blocks. They're buying up buildings. You know, you can't even go to a gas station up these ways. You got mostly, you know, Islamic folks. You know, something about oil and the Muslim folks. So they buying up the gas stations. You know, got Christian folks. They got neighborhoods. You know, they buying things up.
And you know, it's crazy, man. Because shout out to Yahweh Batala. I was just talking to Yahweh from our house yesterday, actually, and we was talking about that. And it's crazy because I'm not even gonna give it a lot of energy, but we were talking about a lot of the things that's being said in the faith and in the culture online, and it amazes me because it's like it's pretty much all like it's almost like beefing, kind of like the West Coast East Coast thing back with Big and Pot, and it's all to me. It's all I have to say it this way because it's from my heart, and I gotta say it real. It's all bullshit, you know. And it's like, and I'm just so we was talking about it, and he was asking me what I thought about it. I was like, bro, I don't even pay no attention to it. I ain't gonna sit here and say I don't see it because I do. But I don't get into it because if it ain't about what we talking about now, like you and I, what we always talk about, what you telling me about with Scoop, if it ain't about that, like uplifting and empowering and building, I don't have time. I'm not giving it none of my energy because at the end of the day, you operating on a low vibrational frequency. So whatever I'm trying to get accomplished and trying to do as a whole, as a part of the team, you're not that anyway. So I'm not gonna spend my time trying to figure out why you beefing or doing whatever you're doing because I don't have time for it because it's bullshit. Yeah, but I'm telling them, and it's funny when you say you don't have we don't have a lot of examples of that. But I'll say the same Yahweh I'm talking about. I did my best to give him everything I had, like all the books I had, all the notes I had. You know what I'm saying? Anything that helped me along my path. As soon as he came out of the room, when he was able to get, you know what I'm saying, get back into the mix of the real the world, I gave him. I'm like, bro, whatever you need, let me know. I got you. I'm gonna give you everything. You know, because I want to see him win. You know what I mean? Like I was blessed to be a part of his process, and especially as a new priest at the time, and so be a part of that, to see it from the inside looking out. That I'm proud of that, and I want to see you win because if you win, I feel like that's how I'm able to kind of win is by seeing other people win, not by just me winning. I'm the only one winning. Then you know what you really got, right? But if you got a whole squad and everybody winning, now you're doing, now you're doing something.
Yeah, right. And then just to kind of, you know, join hands with you on that, you see, that's how I work with you and with everybody.
From day one. And whether we on air or off air, I tell you, I do my best to tell you all the time how much I appreciate that because it matters. You know what I mean? And that is what really, really matters to me. So it's like to be able to have people like you and all the OGs and elders who I've been blessed to come under, all of y'all have the same similar light, you know, in terms of how you feel with humility, as well as it being about the whole instead of being about you. And if you did have any type of ego, I feel like you do have a right to feel that way because you done did some things. But I love the fact that you don't a million times more because it makes me appreciate it that much more because I know it's from a genuine place and I know the intention and, you know, the spirit of it all. So to me, that makes it that much more powerful.
But I'm seeing all this again is built on that concept of Ashiwada. Now, when I didn't know anything about it, you know, when I wasn't aware, I lived in communities, you know, and being kind of politically and being kind of an advocate, that's one thing, but I never had the feeling of it. Okay. And as much as I was learning about Black history and African history, and got into the drums, and then going over to even to the continent. It still didn't get deep into my heart until I started working with Ifa, until I started working with my people as a diviner, until I started that peeling back finally got to a point where it's like, I get it now. I get it. There were times I thought I had gotten it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? But
yeah.
I knew that I hadn't. I was just going on, the little something. Okay.
Right.
But now, and then when I came across Ashiwada and started studying it and living it, it was like, okay, this is a very important part of being in the priestly order. This is a very important part of being into Ifa. This is a very important part of being into Isese. Because what good is it if the community isn't strengthened? It's just like I have a whole lot of crooked politicians.
Yeah.
The community turns into a freaking ghetto.
Yeah.
And it has happened. And it continues to happen. So you're into politics. All right, fine. Oh, so you into Isese, fine. But are you really feeling for the community? And now that, like you and I are, talking about, okay, investing money and building institutions, we're not building it for ourselves. We're building it for our people.
Listen, and what you're saying that, Baba, this is, to me, it's so like full circle to what we're talking about, because I mentioned BMF earlier based off of what you were saying about the water. And so I'm not sure how familiar you are with BMF, but they had a series out. I think it was out on Stars. And so I personally knew of BMF from when I was young and doing different things, a whole lot different. But I just remember of hearing them, how impactful and how powerful these brothers were. Like so the acronym for BMF stands for Black Mafia Family, right? So the brother who ran BMF, it was two brothers actually, but the one who everybody, for the most part, that was around in that culture in that time, from the early 2000s to like 05, 06, they only knew about Big Meech. But Big Meech was one of the most brilliant, prolific, powerful brothers of our time. Like, I put him up there with some of the greatest to ever do it, because the only thing people could really talk about him that they could paint a dark picture about was that he was a huge drug dealer. He trafficked a lot of coke. He trafficked a lot of work. But I was extremely impressed. I am extremely impressed with him because of how his mind worked. The brother was brilliant. I mean, both the brothers were brilliant. They built multi-$100 million empire that they built before they got hit by the feds. But the reason Meech was so powerful and so prolific was he was an outstanding leader. He was a leader of men. He led with, how you pronounce it again? Ashiwada? He led with Ashiwada. So that's why he didn't have none of his lieutenants, none of his soldiers, none of his generals coming for him, because Meech's philosophy is, if I'm eating, everybody eating. If I go to the club and I'm throwing $250,000 in the club, yeah, I could do that, because guess what? I ain't bring it all with me. And everybody in my crew riding in Lambos and Ferraris, we all getting it. And so that's why everybody rolled with him the way they rolled with him. And I'm like, yo, this dude, if he would have been able to figure out how to do something else and it was legal, man, we talk about one of the most powerful leaders of our generation. Like, the brother is brilliant. But I love the way that he made it his point to the way he moved with his company, with his business, was that everybody eats. And if you ain't eating, then, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be with us, because we all eat off the same plate. We all, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody, it ain't about me. We all getting it. And like, I feel like that's the mentality that we have to have as a culture.
Yes.
And that's when you'll see the shift.
You know who you come to mind? I saw a documentary with MC Hammer, and that was his whole thing. And even after he kind of hit rock bottom, he built himself back up. And he was like, there were people who were dependent on me. There were people who were out of prison, and if I couldn't do for them, I was concerned about what they would revert back to.
Mm.
So working with the community as my reason for being, I was able to lift myself back up and now pay people and make sure everybody was set.
Right.
So that I didn't have to worry about them going back into their questionable ways.
Mm.
I'm like, damn, that's deep.
Oh,
But
yeah.
now, but that, when we know about Ashiwada, it's like that's Ashiwada. We're seeing it, but in the Isese communities, and what you said about the beef East West, it reminded me of when I shared with you before, like back in the day, even on the East, even right in New York City, you have people who are very territorial. My house and my godchildren, and you don't roll up in and stuff like that. And a lot of folks would, again, they were rough, and I was like, okay, conquistadores or conquistadores, I guess whatever religion they they in, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
I could be it, but
Ain't no fun if the homies can't have none.
Huh?
I said it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none.
Yeah.
I want my whole team to win. Like I can't get the chip. I don't care about the MVP, man. I want the whole chip. Regardless, you know what I'm saying? Like that's always been my motto. I want the trophy. I don't care about the rookie of the year, MVP, whatever. But let's just get this trophy.
Right. So I wound up I created my own Elay. You know what I mean? Created my own temple. And I made sure that everyone was taken care of. You know what I mean? And people, like I said, if they couldn't afford it, I found a way. If because things happen, or my mom just passed away, and I was getting ready to make so I got you. I can give you a no interest loan, or you can work it off around the temple or whatever. But we gonna get you through.
Facts. I love it.
That kind of thing. Negotiate life with people. You know what I mean? Because you never know when life got to negotiate with you.
Yes, sir. That is so real. And you know what, man? That is so real. That reminds me of I don't know, maybe like a month and a half ago. I was working with somebody similarly, and it was a very similar situation. And it was like, you know what? I was like, just let me know, like let me know when you want to do it, and then we'll do it. And then you just tighten me up when you're able to tighten me up. You know why? And I was so proud of it too, by the way. Like, you know why? Because I remember when I first was like getting started, and some of the points when I was in, I had a few brothers, Babalawos, who over in Nigeria, who I was working with, that was helping me along the way. And it was times when I was in that position where I didn't, I didn't have it to do them big old elbows that the Dafa came up with, but they was like, I got you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it really made me proud because I'm like, wow. Now I'm on the other side. Like I'm able to do this for other people now. You know what I mean? And it felt good. And because especially knowing that whatever they're dealing with, they know that whatever ritual we have to do is a way for them to help get past that. But you know what I mean? But if they aren't able to do that, then they might not be able to get past that. But to be able to do it and have someone that's willing to do it with you based on the strength of let's get this together so you can win. And not, not be pounding you, talking about I need this. They're like, nah, this is good. Like that was dope. And I just remember even like sending the text, like, yo, you know what? That's what this is all about. Like it came full circle. Because like 3 years ago, I was in the same position, and I was blessed to have someone who was able to, you know what I mean, kind of help me out. So now I'm like, I'm in the same. I'm grateful to be in a position, so I'm gonna pay it forward because someone was able to do that for me. Here you go. I'm gonna do that for you, and that's how I feel like that's how the blessings come. When you with good intentions, I feel like that's when, we see blessings we didn't even know was coming sometimes because you were a blessing to someone else, and now your blessings gonna come.
Yeah, and it's all good, man. So on those levels, there are enough of us in Isese and about to be in Isese, you know what I mean, who kind of feel the vibe to say, all right, well, there are institutions out there that are being built, by the minds and the hands of individuals whom I feel as though I can trust, who kind of see the world in a way that doesn't have the chaos and the control and the egocentric, directives. And And I want us to reach those people, because that's those are the unseen. Okay. Right now, it's like we want to hear you, but yeah, eventually we want to see you. We want to see you not because we're propagating, but because if whatever is hindering you from taking that step into your ancestral calling, then we want you to know that we have ways of dismantling those obstacles.
Facts.
Those obstacles, whatever they may be, we have ways of dismantling. And when you and I, Baba Orisha Baby, talked about the experiences of Eshu coming through this,
yes, sir.
Who is the chief negotiator amongst all of creation? Okay, Eshu. Okay,
man. Eshu. And listen, let me tell you something too, real quick, Baba. I meant to say this earlier in the call, but then you was in the zone, so I just forgot about it. But I was talking about Eshu earlier, and this is, I'm telling you, it's so amazing. I was talking about him earlier, and it was about making some Eshus, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know why women can't make Eshus. I gotta ask Baba Kennedy about that, because I've been taught that. I don't know if that's universal or not, but the way I was taught is that only men can make or male priests can make Eshus. But anywho, that's neither here nor there. The main thing was I wasn't sure as to what that was, the whole like what else like kind of pours into that. But neither here nor there.
That's important. I want to address that. I want to address it right here, right now.
Perfect. Okay. Well, yeah, but this is the thing. This is the power of it, though. So as this conversation is going on, this was just today. I'm talking about 5 hours, a little over 5 hours. So as the conversation is going on, I look at the clock and it's 3:33. I said, "I'll be goddamn." What? 3:33. And for those who don't know, that's Eshu's number is 3. And we talking about him, and I look at the clock, and I promise you, it said 3:30. I'm like, man, look. I was like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. That's what I said. I was like, this is amazing.
Eshu has us locked in, okay? And all we have to do is act like we know, because the same way he might not have been there before, he could not be there later. Okay, so by our oriness of it all, then we connect and we take note of these things. Like I took note of the little boy.
Yeah, you said that too.
Opened up the gate for Eshu. Now back to the women folk. Okay, because I know there's a lot of sisters out there and they might be like, oh, okay, patting their feet right now, but it's all right, sisters. We got you.
Don't come for me.
We got you.
I'm still a baby.
It's like
I don't want no smoke.
No, we are good, because see, we got to remember that the folks who kind of got hold of this with the whole syncretism thing were very patriarchal, macho. Okay, okay, and even the whole Christian thing is male dominated.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a long time before you even saw a female preacher, no matter where you were. And if you did, the 1 out of 1,000,000. And I doubt any female will ever be a pope, or whatever, that kind of thing, because that's how they are set up. That doesn't mean that that's the way it is from a universal construct. Now, I've heard it said also that women shouldn't play bata drums. But some sisters got together in Cuba and they started their bata group and they are kicking butt. Sisters are good. I respected them so much. I took a picture of one of the women, put it in my book. And I'm like, okay, little Santeros, take this and smoke it. All right. Because we have another way of viewing our women. That is not, macho, male dominated, patriarchal, Christian, Protestant, whatever. Okay. And then I heard, women can't be Babalaos. And then later on, you find out, oh, yes, they can.
Yanifas.
And here are the ways that they can. Now, whatever things may have been in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, whatever y'all fools got going on, that's y'all over there. But we have a greater reverence towards our women.
Yes, sir.
And there may be exceptions because men gonna be men just like women gonna be women. But as a whole, I don't see any reason why a woman can't do whatever the man is doing. And then when I kind of, had folks from the Asar set kind of dancing around the temple, everybody's trying to peek me out. And I was like, you ain't got to peek. Bam, here I am. Okay. Oh, well, it's because of a menstrual cycle and all that kind of thing. Because women bleed, and then I have somebody. Well, that's why men do wear bows, because they don't menstruate. It gets tied up into a whole lot of whatever-ish. And I'm like, well, okay, but if you see Orisha is so bloodthirsty that they're going to attack a woman because she's menstruating, then I got to question what you think about that whole process. Now, and if a woman is menstruating and say she is making her issue and she somehow feels uncomfortable doing it, then that's her decision, whether she's going to make it or not. There could be times I'm not feeling well enough to be spiritualizing a concrete object. Okay? So then I might say, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to hold off till next week. I'm going through too much right now. All right. Going back into, when we're talking about the blowing of the smoke and, the water and everything like that. So the point is, my sisters in Isese and Ifa, if you feel competent enough to do the work, which is Isese, then do the work. Do the work. You have families to support. Okay. You carry the back, on your back, on your heads. Okay. The productivity of a community. So I for one, and there may be a lot of whomever's out there who disagree, but hey, that's life, Just like I disagree with you, you can disagree with me. It's all right. But I'm saying that the sisters should be able to, and I don't see any reason why they should not, much less cannot.
I say.
I
mean, there's differences in every house.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Color of the gaze to the, you know what I mean? Like the way the rituals are done. I mean, it's you can go across. You can be on one side of one street, it's Ile, and another side of another street Ile, and they do two totally different things. Based upon that's one thing about this tradition. I don't know. That I feel like I don't know if there ever will be an end to that, because it's just so many different variations of how they do it. So.
Well, and that's in every faith, to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah. I mean, everything for that matter. Like everything. When I make spaghetti, they ain't gonna be the same way you make spaghetti. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I might use vegan meat. You might use ground beef. I might use turkey. You might use chicken. It's just whatever. Tomato.
And even if I use the same thing you use, I might season it differently.
It still won't taste exactly the same. Yep, that's fact.
It ain't gonna taste the same.
That's fact.
No two raindrops are the same, but yet when it rains, it pours.
Yeah. Fingerprints.
Right, fingerprints, all of that. So when we embrace differences beyond differences, and see the singularity, it's like you can do whatever you really set your mind to do.
That's fact.
Now, what your intent is, what the repercussions of your acts are, those are more of the concerns than whether you're a man or a woman.
That's facts.
And this is, again, making full circle back to the Ala Ashe and Ashiwada. Are you coming from a place of balance? And on the flip side of that, are you enhancing the community?
Listen, I got one more. I got one quote that I would love to close it out with, based off of coming full circle back to where we started. And it's one of the favorite quotes, one of my favorite quotes of all times. I love it. It comes from Cus D'Amato, the famous, phenomenal boxing trainer of Ali. He trained some of the best to ever do it. But I knew about him from training Mike Tyson, because that was my era, when I came up. But Cus D'Amato has a video where I love this video. I probably watched it thousands of times, but he says, I'm not a successful trainer if I train a fella to be champion of the world. He said, no, I'm a successful trainer if I train a fella to be champion of the world and independent of me. That's when I'm a successful trainer. And man, when I tell you, the first time I heard it, I'm like, yo, what? I was like, yo, that's dope. Like that I feel like if you're talking about Ashwada, like that is I think that's a dope example of, because he's a phenomenal trainer and he trained some of the best to ever do it. But that wasn't enough for him. He said he wanted to be the trainer that trained the champion of the world, but also the champion that was good enough to be the champion independent of him. You know how much you got to pour into somebody for them to be able to do that?
Yes.
So I say that to everybody who watches this channel, that ever has watched this channel, I wholeheartedly feel like my goal, we want y'all to be the Isese champions of the world, but not just the Isese champions of the world, but the Isese champions of the world independent of us. Like, that's dope. I was like, man, that's a goal.
I'm just going to close on your closing. Because it just dawned on me, like where I was, when I established the Temple of the Mystic Path, and when I initiated people left and right, it was like, I don't want you staying here, and the battle cry was, you build your own throne. I will help you or get the materials. We'll even work out the blueprint. But ultimately, you will go out into this world and you will build your own throne. Get your own temple going. And it doesn't have to be an Orisha temple.
Yeah.
Like Ia's temple became the gymnastic school that we founded and that I left her with. You run it. Run it. That's the whole thing. That's your temple. Other people have established different, institutions, if you will, and they run it. Now, they contact me, but they run it independent of me. Because they have built their own thrones. And when you said that, it just kind of triggered, and it's like, okay. My stuff was tight, okay?
Yeah, I love it. I remember you telling me that story too. I definitely remember. I mean, you went even more in depth, but I love it because of the fact that I know that's what the intention was. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I want to help you build, but I want you to be able to build so good. You don't need me to build. You go build and build other people too. So I love it. I love it.
All right.
Well, I think that's definitely a mic drop. So. But once again, bye-bye. It was another phenomenal one. I appreciate you as always, man. And to those out there, we definitely appreciate the love and support. Y'all still been pouring in with the comments, the shares, the likes, the everything, man. We love it. Like, I truly love it. And I share them with bye-bye. Whenever I see him, I screenshot them and send them to him. And, it just fires us up and puts more fuel in our tank to hit the gas pedal even harder, man. So I definitely appreciate everybody for all the love, support, man. And we look forward to doing a lot more, and bringing a lot more of the Ashe to the Ashe channel, man. We appreciate all the love and support, y'all. So I am your host, Orisha Bemi, and once again, we have our community elder, Aloye Baba Ifa Kerede. I appreciate y'all. So we will see y'all on the next episode. Don't forget to please like, subscribe, and hit the notifications. And I appreciate y'all. So we out. Peace.
No double.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé ṣàpò ìyàgbọ́. Tẹ́ntẹ́ ní takisa ní tàtàn. Ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ. Ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe ní gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́. Forsake not your ancestors and pray.